Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the vault, episode 561, Estate versus Trust. And this is definitely going to be a grand episode based off the fact that this is something that we ran into recently in a consultation, and I really just wanted to give further clarification on the subject matter. So many people reach out to us, they think that they're in an estate situation, and that the state usually deals with a decedent. And the state usually deals with someone that's already passed. Usually, people that are going to go into an estate position is based off the fact that somebody, passed away. So, we appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listening, replay. We got Detroit tuning in live, listening to replay. So we always appreciate Detroit, Michigan, actually, for tuning in live, listening to replay. Um, just know that we got a webinar coming up on April the 7th. Going to be the next one installed this year. Definitely will have our enrolled agent. You'll see the flyer coming up this week. So just to put you on notice. So we're going to just hop into it. We see a bunch of people are listening. We appreciate you all. Feel free to type into the chat where you listen to live, listen to replay from. And as well, if you'd like a consultation to give further clarity on this subject matter or any other ones that we speak on, the email you can reach out to is christian@trustchristian.com. So, we're sitting around entrepreneur earlier today, and they're asking about the difference between trust and estate. And we just wanted to be very clear to them that a trust is usually an entity that people use while they're living, and an estate is usually when you're dead. People have to be able to have common sense, even if you're not a lawman and you're a layman, and you say, oh, okay, well, the estate is for when people pass. The trust is usually when people are living. So when you say it that way, a lot of times, a lot of the trust that people are thrown into is called a living trust. Why? So when upon passing and upon death, it turns into a different type of trust. But just remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna give the free game, so it is what it is. We look forward to hearing from you on the consultation. But let's just say, okay, if the living trust is while you're alive and the estate is when you're dead, what type of entity is the estate going to be held in? Because the estate technically is not an entity. When we look at an estate, is it an LLC? Is it a C Corp? Is it a trust? What is it? And so the estate usually signifies that the estate, the assets, the property are held in a position where there's a decedent now. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's only a will. Uh, Sometimes in our case over at the bar, you may never hear about an estate. You may never hear about that. You may only hear that everything's in trust. So that's something that's very unique with the vault as opposed to other programs. But we definitely want to give high levels of comparison to how to look at an estate versus a trust. And an estate is something that deals with, multiple assets, and they may not be in the same vehicle. Whereas if it's a trust, the trust owns all the assets. The trust will own the various different vehicles that we're talking about that the family used or that individual used to make money. We appreciate the land, the land 216. Don't know where that is exactly, but appreciate appreciate the land 216 for tuning in live, listen, replay. If you Google that zip code, you'll find out where that is. We appreciate you all for tuning in live, listen, and replay. This is one of those things people say, well, can I have an estate while I'm still living? How you gonna have an estate if it's for dead people? Oh, it's for dead entities. So is the trust when you started out, is it alive or dead? Don't be fooled, ladies and gentlemen. They're all dead entities. It was never alive. Once again, the estate describes the state of a trust. It describes the state of a corporation. It describes the state of a LLC. It's an estate now. Why? Because someone passed. A living being that may have their name attached to it. When you see family estates of an individual, the family by default is in a position of managing an estate. which is one of the dead relatives, dead members, whether it's their property or assets or liabilities. The estate holds liabilities. It doesn't just hold assets. It holds liabilities because it is the decedent's basically balance sheet. Some of the entities may be formal, some of them may not be formal. Whereas the trust itself, the document should be formal. Just like when you look at a trust, some people say, "Oh, well, living trust." So there's not just living trust. You can deal with multiple types of trust as a trustee. Whereas an estate is very general. A estate does not mean that it's a trust. So this is where people got a little fooled at. They didn't really know too much about it, and so they say, "Oh, well, I want to manage my estate, or I want to deal with my estate." Well, how is it your estate and you're still alive? It's just not. So what the people in our position that do it properly, not the internet guru BS, they know that the assets are held in trust. Bottom line, period. They don't say, "Oh, I'm managing my estate." It sounds very ignorant. How can you manage something that you're not dead? And when we say estate, if it's not an estate, then it would be an inheritance. And then you can manage your inheritance through what? Trust. So it wouldn't be your estate. It would be the family estate if you are managing a family estate. And that comes from the fact that you've had deceased people pass along specific vehicles, assets, or property in a specific structure that says that you're now the manager of those assets. We had someone come on the line the other day say, "Well, who's the executor?" And so people come on the line and ask these questions and they say, "Who's the executor?" Ladies and gentlemen, if it's an executor of an estate, that means they're dead. Oh, Trust Christian, let me get into the semantics of the situation because the internet gurus, they tried to make it seem like was dead entities in the public and I'm the living being. And so what? What are you talking about? First of all, please don't be childish. How is it that a trust can drive a car? A trust cannot drive a car. It's a dead entity. How can a trust stay in the house? It can't stay in the house. It's a dead entity. So how is it that you have people that'll come to the table and say, "Well, it's my estate because I'm managing a dead entity"? What happens if you never come to the table? Is that entity being used? Will that entity be used? What structure is that entity? Is it a trust? Is it an LLC? Is it a C corp? Oh no, the gurus didn't say that. They just said you're managing your family estate. It doesn't work that way. So we just wanted to set the record straight. We actually talked to a fairly competent financial individual earlier today about that because they were asking about this, about an estate versus a trust. Not a long episode, something very short, something that's too sweet and to the point about the fact of just being very aware that an estate and a trust are two different things. And oh man, does it have to be that way? Trust Christian involved. I want to turn it into an estate. So is it a decedent involved? Well, I gotta administer my will while I'm alive. Hmm. Okay. Are you? Did you make the millions to leave in trust? You say you're going to leave millions in trust, right? You think you could just put that on paper and pass it along? You think other families, truly other families, have not worked to put together an asset base? Most of the people that you hear that are wealthy are first gen. So how is it that someone can sit here and say, "Oh, I'm just gonna put something on paper. I'm gonna bypass the work process, and we're just gonna have some money or zeros on paper"? It doesn't work that way. You can't just put zeros on an estate and say it's worth this. So this is what people say. "Oh, well, I have an estate and it's worth this." Okay, who appreciated the assets? Did a third party or are you biased? Are you selling to the marketplace with a conflict of interest? When your family has an estate sale and they sell off assets, when they have an estate sale and sell off assets, did they get appraised? And what happens if you're at the auction? You just start randomly offering things, that's fine, but you got to have people bid on them. You can't just sit here and say, "Oh, well, the estate is worth this," and no one's bidded on it. This state's worth this, and no one's appraised it because, oh, we're dealing in the dead, we're dealing in the fiction. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do you buy products? Are they certified? Do you buy products and are they certified? Do you buy products? Your car's certified, right? The house you live in is certified. You at least want a house that can stand on its own 2 feet, right? People want to buy assets that can stand on their own 2 feet. So why would someone buy assets from your family estate that have not been appraised properly? Oh man, I got this insurance policy. I think we had a trustee ask about that. It was a beautiful thing. Oh, the insurance policy for collateral purposes, for asset based purposes, of course. But how many people inquire in the vault and actually know how to do that properly? First of all, ladies and gentlemen, you're inquiring about 1% information. It's not going to be easy to execute 1% information in the public, where 99% of the people are public. It happens in the private. Those things are private. It's just private, ladies and gentlemen. Are you going to execute your ideas in the private? Or are you going to do your best to be like the gurus say, oh, public and private don't mix, but they over here trying to get you to do a process in the public? How is it public? Are you using public laws? Are you using public rules? First of all, private doesn't have those things. Contract makes the law. Didn't the guru tell you that? Contract makes the law. So that means the private contract makes the law. But they got people going in the public trying to get money out of some estate from the government. Well, the government says, I owe $30,000, $40,000 per the debt clock. Yeah, and what happens if you never pay? It was a joke. But people want to sit on the internet and say, oh, the government has some type of estate for you sitting around with money in it. They got a trust sitting around from your dead estate with money in it. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll share with all of you all that are looking to endeavor in that information. That information requires a high level of financial education. It does not require people sitting around and studying information over the internet. Some people may really find that as beneficial. Ladies and gentlemen, we sit around securities agents that don't know how to do those sophisticated processes. Are we aware that people can execute these processes? Sure. Are we aware that those processes can be executed? Sure. But would you all, in a common sense question, ladies and gentlemen, because we know the internet gurus got your emotions tingling on the inside. The gurus got your emotions tingling on the inside. Oh, you could pull off, you never have to pay a bill ever again, because there is no such thing as money. There is such thing as money. We have it. Whether it's called fiat, gold, silver, barter, trade, money doesn't even have one definition. Smart gurus. But because people are emotional, they've been bamboozled. They've been emotionally massaged. So let's talk about this so-called account that has money in it. Well, is it an estate or is it a trust? Did they tell you that? Because the estate's usually when you're dead. But hold on. Now they got this government trust, supposedly. They got the money in the account. And all you got to do is get access to it. What? So the government has an account that literally has money in it. Like, this is the whole line of thought. There's an account, the government has money in it, and all you got to do is be smart enough to get to it. Oh, really? You got to be smart enough? With your public school education, you're going to be smart enough? Oh, no, no. Don't worry, Trust Christian. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to drink sugar. I'm going to be watching the public TV. I'm going to get all the information through the public internet. I'm going to get the redemption manual. Ladies and gentlemen, the rooms that we sit in, the rooms are private. These people do not put their information out on the internet. The families are held in trust, and it's not an estate. It's just many different aspects of the family estate is held in trust. Many different aspects of the family business is held in trust while they're living. So when they pass away and it does turn into an estate, it's in the proper position of trusteeship. They have the right families, they have the right family members, and that's how it works. It's not a misunderstanding. It's not a misconfusion. They're not dependent on the government to give them any money. Ladies and gentlemen, whether it's a subvert or overt, it's an overt way of saying you need poverty when you're asking the government, which is a people based organization. It is a charity based organization to ask them for money. This is once again going to the independent wealthy mindset and somebody else that just wants to suck on films. Somebody that wants the crumbs of society. If you think you can live off Social Security, you can prepare to collect it. But if you understand that Social Security is not enough money, that is going to be enough money to support you and your loved ones and whoever else that you decide in your retirement for your basic needs or excess needs, it will be imperative to put together a trusteeship program for yourself and building something outside of waiting for the government to give you a handout. People say, "Oh, the government, they got a few bad characters in there, and a few of them they're using this Treasury Direct account, and they're getting money directly from the Treasury, and that's where we're supposed to be going is to the Treasury." And what? We're supposed to go to the Treasury because it's got two signatures on the money, so we're really not getting the money from the right place. We're supposed to be getting the money from what? So the money that is the de facto money. Are you using the de facto money? Yeah, I'm using the de facto money. Let's move on. Do you use the de facto money? And what's wrong with that? De facto money means we're using it by consensus. That means we stopped using gold by consensus, and your ancestors did. They stopped using gold by consensus. And now we're at paper. And our children's children may be using forms of crypto, electric currency, the currency that we could go into that, but we're talking about the fact that it's an internet currency. It's a wireless currency. People wanted to sit here for the past 50 years. Oh man, the government doesn't have gold backed by it. The money doesn't have gold backed by it anymore. So it's losing value. So what value is it going to have on the internet? Well, it's going to be better track. Let's talk. It's going to be better track, right? It didn't add value to the money. Then we got trustees come on the line. We might as well hop into it. They come on the line. Oh, Trust Christian, you're not thinking about the Iraqi dinar? You're not thinking about the money from the emerging markets? First of all, did y'all know that these countries put sanctions in place to not allow a certain amount of US dollars leave their country? These countries don't want US dollars to leave their country. But you got Americans, silly bones, dang near a crazy bone, but they're on the internet being a busy bone. Searching on the internet, trying to diversify out of the United States currency. Well, it's trash, Christian. So the individual gets on the line. Oh, Trust Christian, the Iraqi dinar is 130 to 1. That means they're bad. We got to say this to trustees and otherwise. Oh man, the Iraqi dinar is 130 to 1. So why would you want to buy a currency that doesn't equal par for par value? Well, because at one point it's going to be reevaluated. No, it was sitting there. We just had to go do the homework real quick for them because it was like, no, what are you talking about? Be reevaluated. Like, these countries are never going to be reevaluated to above the dollar. I mean, and this is an oil country. Even if you go to Iraq, think about this. This country, when we talk about Iraq, they have their own money. They don't allow U.S. dollars really to leave. They have sanctions on this stuff. They don't want U.S. dollars to leave. When U.S. dollars come in, they're happy U.S. dollars coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, they're happy U.S. dollars are coming in. That means they're getting outside foreign investment and trade. They have their internal money. They don't even want that money leaving the country. And guess what? What country wants to accept the Iraqi dinar? No smack in the face. But are you taking Iraq? This is how you know how easy and how great a currency is, ladies and gentlemen. You know how easy and great it is when you walk into another country and they accept it. Sorry, United States citizens are benefiting from a bullying situation where the United States has their money in other countries and other countries accept it. So when you travel to other countries, you don't always have to go through an exchange. You can use fiat dollars and they're accepted with ease. It's not a two, are they counterfeit? Do we care to accept this money and go through the hassle? They actually accept it. But United States citizens have been duped, have been fooled to think that their money is trash by these little goofball gurus. Instead of you learn to have faith and confidence in the money that you're using every single day. That yes, you are putting your faith into it. Right. That means you want to have faith in it then. Instead, they got people walking around talking about, oh, the dollar's going to crash. The dollar's going to crash. First of all, it's going to be the last one to crash. Get that through your head. They talk all of this junk. They're not running out. You can't even buy Chinese money, but they want to talk about the dollar. They better put some respect on our name over here. At least you could go put dollars and go use dollars to go buy houses and buy other things in foreign countries. You don't even have to convert sometime. But you got Americans that are so foolish that sit here and think that, oh man, well the dollar, man, is trash, man. You know, the dollar's going to crash, man. That means your house is going to crash. Your dollar's denominated in houses. Your house is denominated in dollars. Most people aren't sophisticated enough to even know how to change any level of denomination for the property that they're evaluating in. But they want to sit here and talk about, oh man, you know, you got to get out of the dollars because it's going to be a reset. You're operating off of fear. How about that? So let's go back to this Iraqi dinar that these people have been talking to us for over 7+ years. For 8+ years, they've been talking about this Iraqi dinar. Oh, trust Christian Vault. The money's going to be reevaluated. Oh, it's going to be reevaluated. Have you ever heard about a redenomination? Have you ever heard where we talked about this on the podcast before? It's in the podcast for sure. Episodes, archives for sure. Have you ever heard about a redenomination? Not a revaluation? Oh, Trust Christian, hold on. I got to go get the dictionary. Let me go look that up real quick. Because I didn't know that they could have a redenomination. That's what India did, where they take out a certain money in the currency. So just like in the United States, we were sitting around somewhere. We'll give you all this example so you all can eat this example to know that this may be the reality for you and you have to eat this situation. Because we were sitting around someone and they said, well, $100 feels like a $10,000 to a billionaire. $100. Like $10,000 feels like $10,000 or $1,000 feels like $100 to a billionaire. Fair to say, if you're in the stratosphere of $1 billion, $100 is not $100 anymore. But $1,000 or $10,000, that probably feels like a new hundred for you. So we were sitting around, we were like, wow, what's the value of $100 bill? We're talking about this money thing. Let's talk about it. Oh, well, if the 100 is the new 50, the 50 is the new 20, and the 20 is the new 10. So when they talk about a revaluation, it's usually a redenomination. And what India did, they didn't just do a revaluation, they eliminated the dollar. So let's just say in this scenario, the 100 became the 50, and the 50 became the 20. But they were like, you know what? We're not going to keep the 20s in circulation. We're going to eliminate them. So now all you got is hundreds, 50s, 10s, and 1s, and 5s. They eliminated the 20s. That's how easy wealth is stolen from people. Stolen from the common man at that. Definitely. Easily stolen from the common man. Stolen from the common man because they don't want to go out and get in currencies that are a little bit more fortified, diversified. We got into that conversation even about that because we were talking to that individual about diversification. Is the estate diversified or is the trust diversified? Do you know the difference between a trust and a estate? That's what we go over with our trustees and trustee training. No, they're not the same, and no, you're not administering the estate right off the rip and right from the beginning. Even if you're alive and you place assets in the trust, they wouldn't be an estate. It's still when most people look at it from the traditional side, on the public side, it's usually called a living trust, not a living estate. But if somebody wants to challenge and go ahead and post it into the chat for all the listeners in the history and the archives, because you don't need to combat us, ladies and gentlemen. We go over this information. We sit in rooms. We go over this information with consultations and trustees all the time. The difference between a trust and an estate is that simple. Sometimes there's confusion. There was confusion when we went over there with a trustee earlier today, so we went over it. There is a difference between a trust and an estate. They're not the same thing. It's that simple. So, and that's that. Can both of them be public and private? To a degree, yes, because the estate could be held in the private capacity, and not all trusts are public. Some of them are private. So there's lots of elements and aspects to it. We look forward to hearing from you all going through the training. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Feel free to reach out. We definitely have the webinar for trustees coming up on the 7th. It's a group webinar. Otherwise, we'll see you in the one-on-ones. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Looking forward to hearing from you all in trustee training. Peace and joy.